The sky above Drillari Prime was calm, too calm. Zenari, a young alien girl from the virile species, stood on the rooftop of her building, staring at the stars. Her purple skin shimmered faintly under the moonlight, and her long white hair danced in the cool breeze. She held a rent notice in her trembling hand. Final warning: vacate immediately. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. Her job at the repair docks was lost after the war started. Ships stopped coming in. People stopped paying. And her landlord stopped caring. Zenari wasn't alone in her suffering. The city was slowly turning into a ghost zone after the war between the Federation and the Sorn Empire spilled into the sector. Bombings had shaken nearby districts. Supplies were limited. Refugees slept in the streets, but Zenari had no family, no one to turn to, and tonight she would sleep outside. She took one last look at her tiny apartment. It was barely bigger than a closet, but it had been hers. Now it belonged to no one. Hours later, the street was cold and filled with shadows. Zenari sat under a broken neon sign, hugging her knees, watching people pass. Some looked away. Some threw trash. No one stopped. She thought about selling her tools, but no one was buying. She thought about begging, but who would help a virile girl? Her stomach growled again. Her body shivered. And then a thought entered her mind. A dark thought. One she swore she'd never consider. One meal, that's all I want. Just food. She stood up, brushing dust off her legs, and walked toward the alley where she had seen other girls go before. Some alien, some human, all desperate, all forgotten. She didn't know what she would say, maybe just offer herself. Maybe just suddenly, a voice behind her, sharp, male, human. You don't belong here, girl. She spun around, eyes wide. A tall human stood there, armored, scarred, carrying a massive rifle slung across his chest. His eyes weren't cruel, but they weren't soft either. Go home, he said. She let out a bitter laugh. I don't have one. The human looked at her, really looked this time. He saw the skinny arms, the hollow eyes, the bruises on her feet from walking too long. You're not like the others, he finally said. You're starving. Zenari didn't answer. Her throat was dry. Her pride already crumbling finally broke. I'll give you my body, she whispered, barely able to look at him. Just feed me. A pause, a long one. The man slowly stepped closer. His voice lowered. Not with hunger, not with power, but with sadness. Don't do that. Not for food. Come with me. She thought it was a trap. She thought maybe he was just more patient than the others, but when she followed him out of the alley, across ruined streets, through flickering ruins, she didn't feel danger. Just silence. Finally, he brought her to a small shelter. Not luxurious, but safe. A tent, a heater. And food, real food. She stared at the plate he handed her. She couldn't believe it. Warm bread. Protein cubes. Water. She devoured it all without a word. The man didn't speak much. Either. He just sat nearby, checking a cracked datapad. Finally, she found the courage. Why help me? He looked up. You remind me of someone. She tilted her head. Who? He looked away. My sister. She died in the early strikes. Later that night, as Zenari slept under the warm blanket, safe for the first time in days, the man sat outside the tent, scanning the horizon. His name was Corporal Ryan Locke, a war medic. Dishonorably discharged for saving the wrong people. And tomorrow he would risk everything again, for someone he barely knew. But tonight? Tonight, he saved one. Asterisk. The next morning, Zenari woke up slowly. For a moment, she forgot where she was. No cold sidewalk. No angry landlord. No hunger clawing at her belly. Just warmth. A blanket. A full stomach. She looked around. The tent was quiet. The human Ryan was sitting outside, still awake, staring at the rising twin suns of Drillari Prime. She stepped out, nervous. Her bare feet touched the cool metal floor beneath the tarp. "You didn't sleep?" she asked softly. Ryan shook his head. "Didn't need to." She wasn't sure if he meant he couldn't, or just didn't want to. He handed her another plate of food. She hesitated this time. "You don't have to keep feeding me," she said, eyes down. "And you don't have to sell yourself to survive," Ryan replied. The words hit her hard. She looked away, shame filling her chest. Ryan didn't speak to hurt her. His voice was calm, but it still stung. Because it was true. They ate quietly. Finally, she spoke again. "Why are you really helping me?" Ryan sighed. "Because I'm tired of watching people die in this war who don't deserve it." He pointed to the distance. Smoke rose over the broken skyline. "You see that? That was a shelter last week, hit by a rogue strike. Federation says it was a mistake. Sorn says it was payback. I don't care. It was full of civilians." Zenari stared, her eyes growing moist. "Were you in the military?" she asked. Ryan nodded. "Medic, Federation unit. Until I disobeyed orders." "Why?" He looked her in the eye. "Because I chose to save a Sorn child instead of my own commander. Got kicked out for fraternizing with the enemy." Zenari was stunned. A human who risked his career for someone like her? Later that day, Zenari helped him gather scrap metal. Ryan built small solar heaters and sold them to locals who could still pay. It wasn't much, but it kept them alive. She was useful with her hands. "Quick, careful, you have skill," Ryan said. "You're not just some helpless girl." "Then why did I feel so worthless?" she asked quietly. He stopped, looked at her. "Because people made you feel that way, not because it's true." Her lips trembled, but she nodded. No one had ever said that to her. That night, she fixed one of his broken tools. A fusion torch. Simple wiring, yet no one else had managed it. He watched her hands, impressed. "You were a mechanic?" She smiled a little. "Dockside repair, ships, engines, cooling cores. I was saving up for a license." Her voice faded. That dream was gone now, or was it? Ryan tapped his datapad. "I might know someone still running permits underground. They owe me a favor." Zenari stared at him. Hope. It felt dangerous. It felt distant, but it was there. Suddenly, alarms blared outside the shelter. Ryan jumped to his feet, grabbing his rifle. Zenari rushed to the tent flap. In the distance, ships roared overhead. Federation fighters. And something else larger. Darker. "Drop craft," Ryan muttered. "Too close." He pulled her back into the shadows. "What is it?" Zenari asked. "Not good." Ryan glanced at her. "Stay here?" But Zenari stepped forward. "No, I'm not hiding anymore." The girl who had offered her body for bread now stood tall beside him. She had survived the worst. Now she wanted to fight for the better. Asterisk smoke filled the air. The sky above Drillari Prime had turned red with fire trails and black with ash. Zenari crouched beside Ryan behind a collapsed wall. His eyes stayed locked on the drop craft. It was a Federation warship, but smaller, a unit transport. It was not just passing through. It was looking for something. Or someone. Zenari's fingers clenched the edge of her tunic. "Why are they landing here? This is a dead zone." Ryan didn't answer at first. Then his eyes narrowed. "Because it's not as dead as they thought." A moment later, the ground shook. Boots hit metal. Armed soldiers spread through the ruins like wolves. Their helmets scanned with blinking red lights. Zenari ducked lower. Ryan whispered, "They're clearing survivors." "Clearing?" Zenari repeated, frightened. He nodded grimly. "No witnesses. No rumors. They think they can hide war crimes." She wanted to scream, to cry, But instead, she clenched her jaw. They can't do this. Ryan turned to her. Then we stopped them. Back in the tent, Ryan quickly pulled open a steel crate. Inside gear. Old, worn, but real. A shock rifle, plasma blades, med packs, EMP darts. He handed Zenari a small stunner. Ever used one of these? She shook her head. He placed it gently. In her palm. Point, click, run if you miss. She stared at the weapon. Last week, she was fixing ships. 2 days ago, she was offering herself just to eat. Now she was holding a weapon. Something inside her changed. They moved through the shadows, careful and silent. Ryan taught her how to stay low, breathe slowly, and keep her steps quiet. Zenari was a fast learner. Her small frame helped her slip through gaps. She watched as 2 soldiers cornered an alien child. Run, Ryan whispered before raising his rifle and shooting a stun bolt. The soldiers collapsed. Zenari rushed to the child. She lifted him up. Gently, a tiny Yoran boy. Big eyes, thin legs. He hugged her tightly. Thank you, he whispered. For the first time in days, Zenari felt like someone, not something. As they moved deeper into the ruins, Zenari spotted a hover truck. Federation markings. Cargo crates stacked in the back. Ryan checked the label. His face darkened. Food. Stolen from refugee shelters. Zenari clenched her fists. She'd been starving while this sat hidden in crates. Ryan looked at her. We can take it. How? He smiled. You said you used to fix ships, right? 10 minutes later, Zenari was underneath the hover truck, connecting wires, bypassing the security. Ryan watched for guards. One passed by, but Zenari didn't freeze her. Hands moved like they were back in a repair bay. Suddenly, the engine rumbled to life. Ryan grinned. You still got it. Zenari jumped in the back, opening crates. Inside food, clean water, even blankets. She turned to Ryan. We have to share this. With the others. The starving ones. He nodded. Let's give them hope. That night, the hover truck rolled into a hidden zone where other refugees were hiding underground. They saw the truck. Then they saw the food. And then they saw Zenari, standing on top of the crates. Her voice rang clear. No more begging. No more selling. Our bodies to live. Tonight, we eat together. Cheers rose. Some cried. Some bowed. To them, she was no longer a beggar. She was a fighter. A savior. And in the shadows, Ryan just smiled, because the girl he found starving in the street was now leading the hungry with fire in her soul. Asterisk. The food was gone by morning. Not stolen, shared. Every bite had been divided between refugees hiding in broken tunnels, collapsed buildings, and dark alleys. No one fought. No one begged. For the first time in weeks, they had a meal. Thanks to Zenari. But mercy has a cost. A sharp voice crackled. Over the Federation come line near the old shelter. Unauthorized hover truck detected. Suspected theft. Sector 9 sweep initiated. Ryan threw the broken come down. They're coming. Zenari stood frozen. Because of us, Ryan nodded. They tracked the food run. They'll want payback. She bit her lip. What will they do to the others? Ryan's face was grim. If they think we're rebels? Burn it all. Zenari didn't wait. She grabbed her jacket and stunner. Ryan raised an eyebrow. You sure? I didn't survive the streets to hide while others suffer, she said, with steel in her voice now. The kind only hardship could forge. Ryan handed her a datapad. We need to move them. Get them below the Eastern Bridge tunnels. That place is shielded. I'll hold them off as long as I can. No, Zenari said firmly. We both will. He stared at her. You're not trained, but I care, she said. And that matters more right now. Explosions rocked the far end of the ruins as Federation troops arrived. Zenari ran through broken alleys, gathering children and elders. Some followed quickly. Others had to be carried. She found the urine boy from earlier, clutching a broken toy. She scooped him into her arms and didn't stop running. Meanwhile, Ryan knelt on a rooftop, adjusting his aim. One soldier, then another. He didn't kill, he stunned. Just enough to buy time, but there were too many. A drone zipped past. Unauthorized human detected. Retired. Fugitive. Ryan muttered, "They still remember me, huh?" He took out the drone with a precise EMP dart. Down below, Zenari led the last group toward the bridge tunnels. But a soldier cut them off. The trooper raised his rifle. Zenari stepped in front of the children. "Don't!" she shouted. The soldier hesitated. She didn't move. His finger tightened on the trigger, but before he could fire, a shot rang out. The trooper dropped. Ryan stood behind him, breathing hard, smoke rising from his weapon. "You all right?" he called out. Zenari nodded, chest heaving. Reached the tunnels. The refugees were safe for now, but Ryan was bleeding. A blast had caught his side. He gritted his teeth, stumbling. Zenari caught him, helping him sit. "You saved me," she whispered. Ryan smiled weakly. "You saved them." She patched his wound using supplies he taught her to carry. As she worked, tears rolled down her cheeks. "They'll keep coming. I know. They'll kill us. Maybe." She paused. Then asked, "Was it worth it?" Ryan looked at the sleeping children. The quiet breathing of families who had lost everything but now had hope. He nodded. Every time. That night, Zenari didn't sleep. She sat by the tunnel entrance, weapon in her lap, eyes sharp. The girl who once offered herself for food was now guarding others with her life, and in the darkness, others began to whisper her name, not as a beggar, not as a tool, but as a protector. As a spark. Asterisk. By morning, Zenari's name was spreading through the ruins like quiet fire, not shouted, not sung, whispered. Among the hungry, the hurt, the broken. They didn't know her full story, but they knew this. A girl with purple skin and white hair had faced Federation soldiers, and won. Zenari didn't care about fame. All she cared about was keeping people alive. Ryan's wound was healing slowly, but he couldn't fight yet. So Zenari took charge. She organized food rations, marked safe paths between buildings, and helped children find missing family. She didn't sleep much. Didn't eat enough. But every time a child smiled, or an old refugee thanked her with tears in their eyes, she felt stronger. She had been homeless. Now, she had purpose. One evening, while gathering spare medical packs from an abandoned shop, Zenari met someone new, a tall alien woman with gold eyes and a cloak that shimmered like glass. "You're the girl they speak of," the stranger said. Zenari stood still, wary. "And you are?" "A messenger. I speak for the survivors gathering beyond Sector 12. They need a leader." Zenari frowned. "Why me?" "Because people trust you. You fed them when no one else would. You fought for them when others ran. They believe in you." Zenari didn't know what to say. "Leader?" She was just trying to stay alive. The woman added softly, "We need hope. You are that now." Back in the tunnel, Zenari told Ryan everything. He leaned against the wall, still recovering. "You've come far." "I don't want to be in charge," she said. "I'm no commander." "You don't need a title to lead," he said. "You just need to care more than you're afraid." She looked at him. "Is that what you did in the army?" Ryan looked away. "I cared. They called it weakness. But maybe it's strength." The next day, Zenari walked to Sector 12 with the messenger. What she saw took her breath away. Hundreds of refugees. Families, old aliens, children without shoes. All hiding in the shadows of war-torn buildings. When she arrived, they came. Forward, eyes wide, faces dirty. Hearts open. One child offered her a wilted flower. One elder knelt and said, "Thank you, daughter of mercy." Zenari's throat tightened. She turned to them and raised her voice. "I am not your savior. I'm just like you. But if we stand together, they cannot break us." The crowd clapped Dot and the whispers grew louder. That night, a Federation scout spotted them. The soldier sent a coded message. "Civilian gathering detected. Possible resistance cell. Requesting cleansing order." The message reached a captain. He read it once, then smiled coldly. "Send in the bots." Far away, in the ruins of Drillari Prime, the survivors slept, but Zenari didn't. She stood watch on a rooftop, holding a long-range scanner. When the red dot blinked into range fast, aggressive, and heading straight for them, her breath caught. Attack drones. 3 of them. Heavy class. She ran to warn the others. They had minutes. She grabbed Ryan's comm and shouted, "Get the children underground." Ryan's voice crackled. "What is it?" "Federation drones." "They're coming," Ryan cursed. "You have cover?" "No." "Time for that." She rushed outside. The night air was sharp. Wind howled. She stood in the open, raising her arm. Her stunner was too weak. Her body too small, but her courage burned brighter than ever. "Come on, you metal cowards." She shouted. "Come face someone who won't run." The first drone locked onto her. Red beams charged Dot, and then a blast came from behind. Ryan barely walking, barely steady, but still aiming true. One drone fell. Then a second was hit by a surprise EMP blast from the underground survivors who had repurposed Zenari's old fusion torch. The third drone hovered. Confused. Then, with one final shot Zenari fired. The drone sparked. It fell, and the ruins were silent again. Zenari collapsed to her knees. Ryan limped to her side. "You really aren't a beggar anymore," he said, smiling. She looked up. "No," she said, panting. "Now I'm a problem." They both laughed, and the whispers of a hero became a roar. Asterisk. When the dust finally settled, the ruins of Sector 12 were quiet. The 3 Federation drones lay in pieces across the shattered streets. Children peeked from behind rubble. Elders came out of hiding. And one name was whispered with pride and awe, Zenari, but it wasn't just her they praised. They began speaking of the human who stayed. A soldier without a flag. A man with a scar across his cheek and pain in his eyes, Ryan Locke. He had no rank now, no command. But his presence gave people strength. He could have left long ago, but he chose to stay. Inside a broken apartment turned shelter, Ryan sat with a bandage on his ribs. Zenari was helping tie it tighter. "You should be resting," she said softly. "I'll rest when they're safe," Ryan grunted. "You can barely walk," she said. He smiled. "You sound like a medic now." She paused, then smirked. "Maybe I learned from a good one." Outside, the survivors were busy. The destroyed drones were being taken apart. One of the teenagers used a sharpened bone to carve a medal from the drone's metal shell. He handed it to Zenari. "We don't have much," he said, "but this is yours." Zenari held it gently. It was rough, uneven, but beautiful. She wore it on a string around her neck. That evening, a group of new refugees arrived. They looked tired, scared, and confused, but when they saw Zenari and Ryan standing together, they didn't run. They didn't beg. They walked forward with straight backs and hope in their hearts. One woman whispered, "This is the place." When they called the safe sector, Ryan overheard it and chuckled. "Safe? That's funny." But Zenari didn't laugh. She looked at the new arrivals and said, "It will be." Later that night, Ryan finally asked the question he'd been holding back. "Why did you offer yourself for food that night?" Zenari froze. Then she sat down beside him. Her voice was quiet. "Because I had nothing else. I thought. If I gave my body, maybe someone would give me bread. She didn't cry. She just looked tired. But you didn't take it, she added. You gave me food anyway, and safety. You made me feel like a person again. Ryan's voice was gentle. You never stopped being one. The next morning, a message came through a salvaged Federation unit. A voice spoke, filtered through static. Attention to any survivors in Sector 12. Lay down your weapons. The Federation is sending cleanup squads. Any resistance will be met with force. Zenari listened. Her hands clenched into fists. Ryan spat. They're coming again. But now, Zenari said, standing tall, we're ready. She rallied the people. Some had weapons. Most didn't, but they had tools. Shields, spirit. She walked among them, speaking softly, encouraging the fearful, hugging the children, teaching the young how to stand still even when their knees trembled. Ryan, now able to move again, worked on setting up traps and defense lines. They had no army, but they had each other, and sometimes, that's enough. When night came and the stars blinked over the broken skyline, Zenari stood watch. Ryan walked up beside her. You scared? He asked. Yes, she replied. Good. That means you still care. She looked at him. Why did you stay? He took a deep breath. Because I once followed orders that got good people hurt. This time, I'm choosing who I protect, and I choose you. She swallowed hard. No one had ever said that to her. Not even before the war. And in the silence, their shoulders touched. Not by accident. Not from fear, but from trust. Down below, families slept in peace for one more night. Because one alien girl refused to be a victim, and because one human soldier refused to run. Together. They were more than broken souls. They were defenders. They were hope. Asterisk. The sun had not yet risen when the first explosion shook. Sector 12. Federation forces had arrived. This time, they brought more than drones, armored walkers, riot troops, burner units. But what they didn't bring was fear, because the people of Sector 12 had already lost everything. And now, they had something worth protecting. Each other. Zenari stood at the front line, wearing nothing but scavenged armor, a plasma blade on her belt, and that crooked metal hanging from her neck. Behind her were refugees, once beggars, now defenders. Children. Hid underground, the elderly prepared supply packs and water. Everyone had a role. Even the scared had purpose. Ryan stood beside Zenari, loading his rifle. You don't have to be here, he told her. I'm not leaving, she said. Not now. Not ever. He looked at her and nodded. Then let's make them remember who we are. The Federation commander sent one last warning. Lay down your arms or be cleansed. Zenari replied by opening the channel and saying, we will never kneel again. The battle was brutal. The walkers fired first, crushing walls and tearing holes in the ground, but Zenari and Ryan had planned for it. Old sewer tunnels collapsed beneath the machines. Two of the walkers dropped into darkness. Explosives crafted from mining tools blasted through the night. Refugees fought with sharpened rods, stolen rifles, and burning courage. Zenari moved like fire fast, focused, fearless. She pulled children from rubble, directed fighters to new positions, and threw herself between a blast and a mother with her baby. Her stunner broke, her armor cracked, but she didn't fall. Ryan, bleeding from a wound to his arm, covered her side. Together, they held a line. The Federation soldiers began to falter. Why? Weren't these civilians running? Why were they fighting like trained units? Because pain had become their teacher. Because one alien girl had shown them they were more than victims, and one human reminded them that not all soldiers followed orders blindly. Then, silence. The last Federation gunship hovered above its engines, whining, its cannons hot. Everyone stared up. No more weapons. No more tricks. Zenori stood in the open, her body shaking. The ship aimed at her. And paused. Inside. The pilot zoomed in on her face. Dirty, tired, bruised, but not broken, not begging, not afraid. He lowered the weapon and flew away. Cheers exploded. Across the ruins, some wept, some danced, some simply sat down and breathed for the first time in days. Zenari collapsed to her knees, exhausted, alive. Ryan rushed over and caught her. "You did it," he said. "No," she whispered, eyes closing. "We did." Weeks passed. News spread across the planet. The sector that fought back. The Federation called it a minor disturbance. But people knew better. They heard the truth in the whispers, in the smuggled messages, in the stories told in hushed voices. A homeless alien girl who once begged for food became the leader who saved thousands. Zenari never asked for power, but leaders from other sectors came to her. They wanted to learn how she gave her people hope. She showed them how to build with scraps, how to fight with honor, and how to protect the weak. She became more than a name. She became a symbol. As for Ryan, he stayed. Not because he had to, because he wanted to. He helped rebuild, trained new medics, and stood quietly behind Zenari whenever she spoke to crowds. When asked why, he always replied with a smile, "Because she saved me too." And so, in the middle of a war-torn galaxy, hope was not born from wealth, weapons, or politics. It came from a girl with nothing, girl who gave everything. From homeless to hero, Zenari became the heart of a revolution.